Well, I guess it's time for round two. I really, really never know how to start these. Okay. What up, guys? Roskand here with number 2 of 5 of my Halloween horror series of classic movie reviews, celebrating the founding of this channel and kicking it off right with a scary month of scariness. Last week, we talked about John Carpenter's classic horror film, Halloween. This week, it's time for the bigger, badder, dumber sequel. Shall we?
Come on.
In Rick Rosenthal's directorial debut, Halloween 2 picks up right at the end of the first one, following Michael Myers as he continues to hunt Laurie Strode on Halloween night, 1978, leaving a dead trail of bodies in his wake. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis from the asylum teams up with local police to try to track him down as well. It's a little more complicated, and it's not quite as tight. Halloween 2 delivers on every promise a sequel makes. It is bigger, it is badder, and it's definitely dumber than the first one. At the expense of pacing and a sensible, understandable storyline, Halloween 2 delivers a good number of creative executions while also expanding the Halloween lore and creating a satisfying enough viewing experience on its own. And I mean it. It's pretty satisfying. It's fun to watch overall. Half the fun of a slasher film is watching the different characters die in creatively horrific ways. And Halloween 2 definitely cranks it up a notch from the first one. Yeah, there are definitely some far more brutal kills in this movie. The first Halloween was pretty limited to Michael Myers coming out of a shadow, grabbing someone by the neck, and stabbing them once or twice until they died. After a couple times, it's kind of boring on screen. Halloween 2 features someone drowning in a pool of boiling water, someone else strapped to a medical table and drained of blood drip by drip. And that's not even as ridiculous as it gets. The creatively brutal kills are only part of its appeal, as Rick Rosenthal uses interesting camera angles and cuts to keep you interested, even if the story doesn't have much to draw you in. There's one cut I remember in particular where the camera zooms in on a security camera as it's watching Laurie walk down the hallway of the hospital. It then cuts from that angle to the actual angle that the security camera sees, which was striking enough to keep me invested in what was going on screen, despite the fact that I didn't really care what was going on by that point in time. There's also a couple visual callbacks to the first Halloween movie in the form of point-of-view shots from the perspective of Michael Myers as he gets away from the personal danger to him at the end of the first movie and tries to find Laurie Strode in Haddonfield over the course of the night. Rick Rosenthal chooses also to show a couple point-of-view shots from Laurie's perspective, which interestingly links Michael and Laurie before you find out how connected those two characters are, which is pretty cool. A lesser horror film could have telegraphed that crazy twist far more obviously, and if it wasn't for my background knowledge going into this newer Halloween coming out next week, I can't say that I would have guessed that particular twist in the first place. Now, by that I mean, not being able to guess the twist was pretty cool. The actual story suffered from some strange problems that also led it to have some weird pacing as well. The choice to make Michael and Laurie siblings makes the entire night of violence less random, less scary, and it makes Laurie a little bit less relatable. Part of the appeal of the first one was that the entire night could happen anywhere to anyone, and the sense of dread that you get from that is why the whole thing is so scary in the first place. Making the choice late in the film to give Michael a pretty clear motivation for his heinous acts not only deflates the sense of terror that you get from it, but also ruins the stakes of the doctor's side plot as he goes through the town with police officers in an effort to find Michael Myers over the course of the night. Side note, That whole subplot with Dr. Loomis and the police trying to find Michael Myers really didn't work at all. There's a point early on in the film where, because he thinks he sees Michael Myers walking down the street, Dr. Loomis causes a scene where a car accident takes place and a pedestrian is, well, pretty brutally killed. Now, the issue with this bait and switch is that you know pretty early on that body doesn't belong to Michael Myers. And so while you're watching these characters try to identify that body and figure out how best to proceed through the night, you're also stuck watching Michael Myers get to the hospital and kill several people. You almost wonder why you're just watching this group of people act so incompetently in the first place. There comes a point as they're tracking down Michael where they find he had been to one of the local schools, and that part worked really well. If early on they had been on his trail and just barely out of reach, the sense of terror would have been ratcheted up that much more. It's one thing to have a sense of danger approaching, but to have your safety blanket just barely out of reach makes the sense of tension on top of that dread feel almost unbearable, which is really what a movie like this should be aiming for in the first place, right? And the movie could improve some of these pacing problems by providing some more likable characters. They tried to improve on the first one's indistinct characters by making sure you could identify who was who in this movie. The downside is, most of these people suck. While I have to give the movie some points for making characters like Bud and Jimmy memorable, it loses a couple because I didn't really care about anyone until they died. And even then, it was only because of the ways that these people died that I even had any investment in what was going on at all. There's even Jimmy, who the movie tries to make you feel like is a good character until you realize he's an EMT who's hitting on fresh patients. Like, he just brought this girl to the hospital in an ambulance and he's trying to... I don't know, man. These people are not the greatest of people. It was kind of fun to watch them die. That was weird to say, wasn't it? Overall, despite its weird pacing and story concerns, Halloween delivers scary enough and brutal enough moments to earn the good time you have watching it. As long as you don't think too hard about what's actually happening, you can have plenty of fun with the characters as they take their short roads to death. Altogether, I'd probably give Halloween 2 a 15 out of 20. Well, that's 2. Keep an eye out the rest of the month for the next 3 horror classic reviews I've got coming out this month. If you like what's happening, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what I missed, what I should have said, what I need to watch, because I guarantee you most of your suggestions I have missed. So please, let me know what I need to see. Thanks for watching, and as always, do stuff, make stuff. I'm gonna do something different. Have a good night. Mr. Sandman.